The Korean Peninsula, a land of rugged mountains and fertile valleys, has long been a focal point of geopolitical tension. Divided by ideology and the aftermath of World War II, North and South Korea remain locked in a technical state of war. The Korean War, which raged from 1950 to 1953, devastated the peninsula and left millions dead. Though an armistice agreement halted the fighting, a lasting peace treaty proved elusive. The Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, a heavily fortified buffer zone, stretches for 155 miles, separating the two Koreas. It stands as a stark reminder of the unresolved conflict and the ever-present potential for renewed hostilities. South Korea, with substantial support from the United States, underwent rapid economic development, transforming itself into a global economic powerhouse and a vibrant democracy. North Korea, under the iron rule of the Kim dynasty, became an isolated and heavily militarized state. On paper, North Korea boasts a formidable military force. It possesses a vast standing army, estimated to be over 1 million strong, equipped with a substantial arsenal of artillery, tanks, and armored vehicles. However, North Korea's military strength is tempered by several key weaknesses. Its equipment, much of its Soviet-era technology, is outdated and poorly maintained. South Korea, in contrast, possesses a smaller but far more technologically advanced military. Its armed forces are equipped with state-of-the-art weaponry, including advanced fighter jets, tanks, and missile defense systems, much of it supplied by the United States. South Korea's military benefits from rigorous training, sophisticated command and control systems, and close integration with the U.S. military. The disparity in military capabilities between North and South Korea highlights the asymmetric nature of the security challenge on the peninsula. North Korea's pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missile technology has been a persistent source of regional and global instability. Since its first nuclear test in 2006, North Korea has conducted 6 nuclear tests, each time drawing international condemnation and tightened sanctions. Its ballistic missile program has also advanced rapidly, with the regime testing missiles capable of reaching not only South Korea and Japan, but also potentially the continental United States. The regime views nuclear weapons as the ultimate deterrent against foreign invasion and regime change, seeking to ensure its survival against what it perceives as hostile external forces. However, North Korea's nuclear brinkmanship has come at a significant cost. International sanctions imposed in response to its nuclear and missile tests have crippled the country's economy and further isolated it from the global community. The pursuit of nuclear weapons has also diverted scarce resources from pressing domestic needs, exacerbating the plight of ordinary North Koreans who suffer under the regime's oppressive rule. The intractable nature of the North Korean nuclear issue poses a significant challenge to regional and global security, with no easy solutions in sight. China, North Korea's giant neighbor to the north, plays a pivotal role in the Korean Peninsula's security calculus. As North Korea's only major ally and primary trading partner, China wields considerable influence over the regime in Pyongyang. Beijing seeks to maintain stability on its border and prevent the collapse of the North Korean state, fearing an influx of refugees and the potential for a unified Korea allied with the United States. At the same time, China is wary of North Korea's nuclear ambitions, recognizing the risks they pose to regional stability and China's own security. In the event of a renewed conflict on the Korean Peninsula, China's role would be crucial, but highly uncertain. The potential for miscalculation and escalation in such a scenario underscores the high stakes involved, and the need for clear communication and crisis management mechanisms to prevent a regional conflagration. The United States, South Korea's staunch ally, remains deeply involved in the Korean Peninsula's security. Forged in the crucible of the Korean War, the U.S.-South Korea alliance is a cornerstone of U.S. security strategy in Northeast Asia. The United States maintains a significant military presence in South Korea, with approximately 28,500 troops stationed there, a visible deterrent against North Korean aggression. The U.S. commitment to South Korea's defense is ironclad, backed by a mutual defense treaty that obligates the United States to come to South Korea's aid in the event of an attack. The U.S.-South Korea alliance extends beyond military cooperation, encompassing close economic and diplomatic ties. The Biden administration faces the daunting task of finding a new approach to address the North Korean nuclear challenge. Japan, located just across the Sea of Japan from the Korean Peninsula, views the situation there with deep concern. North Korea's ballistic missile tests, some of which have flown over Japanese territory, have rattled nerves in Tokyo. Japan has strengthened its military capabilities in recent years, revising its pacifist constitution to allow for greater military assertiveness. It has also bolstered its missile defense systems and enhanced its security cooperation with the United States. Japan's security concerns extend beyond North Korea, encompassing China's growing military might and assertiveness in the region. A Korean conflict would present Japan with a complex set of challenges, forcing it to navigate a delicate balance between its security interests, its alliance obligations, and its regional relationships. Russia, with its own border along the northern edge of the Korean Peninsula, has a vested interest in maintaining stability in Northeast Asia. While Russia's ties with North Korea have weakened since the Cold War, Moscow still maintains diplomatic relations with Pyongyang and views North Korea as a buffer against U.S. influence in the region. Russia's approach to the Korean Peninsula is characterized by a mix of pragmatism and opportunism. Moscow has engaged in diplomatic efforts to reduce tensions on the peninsula, hosting six-party talks aimed at denuclearizing North Korea. In the event of a conflict on the Korean Peninsula, Russia's role would be multifaceted and difficult to predict. The potential for miscalculation and escalation in such a fluid and unpredictable environment underscores the importance of clear communication and crisis management mechanisms to prevent a wider regional conflict. A renewed conflict on the Korean Peninsula would send shockwaves through the international community, triggering a global response with far-reaching consequences. The conflict would dominate headlines, roiling financial markets, and prompting diplomatic scrambling to contain the crisis. The United Nations Security Council, tasked with maintaining international peace and security, would be called upon to address the situation, likely facing divisions among its permanent members. The humanitarian consequences of a Korean conflict would be catastrophic. The Korean Peninsula is one of the most densely populated regions in the world, and a full-scale war would result in immense loss of life and displacement. The use of chemical or nuclear weapons, a chilling possibility given North Korea's arsenal, would magnify the humanitarian disaster, potentially spreading radioactive fallout beyond the Korean Peninsula. The crisis would test the limits of international cooperation and diplomacy, potentially reshaping alliances and altering the global balance of power. Predicting the outcome of a hypothetical war on the Korean Peninsula is a fraught exercise, rife with uncertainties and variables that defy easy calculation. Military analysts and Korea experts offer a range of assessments, often differing in their projections of how such a conflict might unfold, and who might ultimately prevail. Most experts agree that a North Korean attack on South Korea would be met with swift and overwhelming retaliation from the US and South Korean militaries. South Korea's military, though smaller than North Korea's, is far more technologically advanced and better trained. The US military presence in South Korea, including ground troops, air power, and naval assets, would be brought to bear, aiming to cripple North Korea's command and control structures, neutralize its artillery and missile capabilities, and repel any invasion force. The duration and intensity of a Korean conflict would depend on a multitude of factors, including the initial objectives of the belligerents, the willingness of external actors to intervene, and the potential for escalation, particularly the use of nuclear weapons. The fog of war, with its inherent uncertainties and the potential for miscalculation and escalation, hangs heavy over any assessment of a potential Korean conflict. The actions of the key players, often driven by imperfect information, fear, and political calculations, could quickly spiral out of control, leading to unintended consequences. North Korea's nuclear arsenal, shrouded in secrecy, adds a dangerous wildcard to any conflict on the Korean Peninsula. While the exact size and capabilities of North Korea's nuclear arsenal remain unknown, it is estimated to possess dozens of nuclear warheads and a growing arsenal of ballistic missiles capable of delivering them. The use of nuclear weapons in a Korean conflict would have catastrophic consequences, potentially resulting in hundreds of thousands or even millions of deaths and long-term environmental damage. The potential for miscalculation and escalation in a Korean conflict underscores the importance of clear communication, crisis management mechanisms, and a shared understanding of red lines among the key players. Amidst the heightened tensions and military posturing, the pursuit of peace on the Korean Peninsula remains an urgent imperative. Diplomacy, though often challenging and frustrating, offers the only viable path to a lasting solution to the Korean conflict, one that addresses the security concerns of all parties and paves the way for a more peaceful and prosperous future. De-escalation, a necessary first step, requires building trust, reducing tensions, and creating the space for meaningful dialogue. Confidence-building measures such as military-to-military talks, the reactivation of communication hotlines, and the resumption of family reunions can help reduce tensions and foster a more conducive environment for dialogue. Multilateral diplomacy, involving all key stakeholders, remains essential for addressing the complex security concerns on the Korean Peninsula. The international community has a responsibility to support such efforts, providing incentives for cooperation, offering mediation and facilitation, and working tirelessly to build a more peaceful and prosperous future for the Korean people.